Alright guys, welcome back to another video. It's your man Jay Will. So this phone right here, the Blade V8 Pro, has definitely been getting used. It's been about a month and a half since I put up my full review on this phone. It might be a little bit longer, I don't know for sure, but it's definitely been a while, January sometime since I put the review up, and the phone definitely is getting used. It's getting some scratches, and it's getting banged up pretty bad. I leave it in a case, but the screen, can't avoid the scratches on the screen for some reason. I don't know what that's about. But the phone, how is it doing? Well, it's doing pretty good. Battery life, it seems to be settling in. I'm getting some really good battery life, averaging about 8+ hours of screen on time. That's just almost unheard of on flagship devices, devices that have like quad HD displays and stuff like that. That probably won't ever happen, at least not in 2017. I'm hoping that it will happen, but the mid-range game, this phone right here is definitely one of the best. It's $229. You can find good deals on it online, so you just have to do your research. But overall, man, this phone has been doing pretty good. It's held up pretty well. One thing I did notice is that my screen is scratching up pretty easy, and I just have it in and out of pockets and things like that with no keys or anything. Just the screen scratches pretty easy, and it's around the edges. I don't know what the deal is, but I do keep it in the official case. But around the house, I take it out. But when I leave the house, I have it in a case, and the phone looks brand new, and you probably can't even tell on this video that the phone has any scratches at all on the screen. And I'm not going to try to go out of my way to point out little microfiber scratches, but there's just basically scratches around the edges. I do use a microfiber cleaning cloth to clean all of my screens, but for some reason, this screen right here scratched pretty bad. Now, outside of that, I haven't had any issues with this phone. Software and everything still runs like it did when it first took it out of the box. And again, this is a retail unit that I'm talking about here. The other version that I had it's not one that you can actually see or show. I could show you, but this retail unit, I've definitely had it for almost, it's been about a month and a half now, going on, yeah, about a month and a half, 2 months maybe. And it's held up actually very well. Camera, everything on here is still pretty good. And the overall experience with the phone hasn't slowed down. I mean, sometimes when you get all your apps on the phone or you install more apps and things like that, some phones can bog down, and I haven't had that experience with this phone. I still really like this hardware compared to a lot of phones in this price range. It's actually pretty solid hardware, and I could match it against something like this. This isn't in the same bracket, but you can find this phone kind of low in price. You can find it on sale sometimes, brand new for $239. But it's still not going to be a better performer than this phone right here when it comes to just straight up performance. It just won't happen. The Snapdragon 625 is a tried and true processor. It's definitely a monster in this phone right here. This device really does well. And the 625 in this phone is doing phenomenal. Now, if they would have done something like put a Snapdragon 820 in this phone right here, oh my gosh. And there's nothing wrong with that. Putting a Snapdragon 820 in this phone with a 1080p display, that's 1+3 territory. You got 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs on board. And, would you guys have purchased that? Like a Snapdragon 820, 3 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs on board for $330? Like this same thing. Or, you can make some changes to what you would want to change, but $330, Snapdragon 820, 3 gigs of RAM, 64 gigs on board storage, and leave everything else the same. Would you guys have purchased that? I think it still would have sold pretty well. It probably would have sold even better than it's doing now, probably because more tech heads would jump out there. But even with this package, the 625, 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs on board, that should be just a standard. That should be a standard for today's smartphones. 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs on board storage, and at least a Snapdragon 625. And a 3,000 milliamp hour battery is the lowest that some of these phones should go. But again, this phone performing like real world usage is getting used, and I don't have any problems with it other than the screen scratching a little bit, and getting scuffed up pretty quickly. And that actually happened within 2 weeks of having the phone. And I was like, man, what is going on? Where did these scratches come from? Because I'm very careful with my phones. And I've definitely had this phone for a long time. And I don't have any scratches on the screen. And I use it the same way. Camera quality, phone calls, everything's the same. It's doing its job as a cell phone. And it's doing its job as a smartphone. I'm not going to make a long drawn out video, you know. I just think that I'm definitely going to do some comparison videos with this. I've already put it against both of these, I believe. I need to put this against the Galaxy J7. That's an older phone, and it's still, the Galaxy J7 is a older phone, but it's still amongst some of the best. I mean, this has a 5.5-inch 720p Super AMOLED display. So you let me know in the comments if you think this phone right here is worthy to go up against this phone right here. Because remember, this has an Exynos processor in it. So this will be interesting. This too, I can definitely pull down 8 hours of screen on time. But I don't think I can really average 8. I can get probably over 7 on every charge. But I've pulled down over 8 on here. Camera quality, I think, you know, let me know in the comments. Maybe I'll set that up. Do a camera battle with these two. Because this phone right here has a really good camera. And the screen on here is just gorgeous. I mean, what do you think? It's time to put it against some phones. Because this phone costs $240 and this costs $230. But this is an older phone. This is a real old. This is at least a year old. I've had this phone for a long time, man. I don't even remember when I bought that. Closer to launch last year, I don't know, beginning of last year, I don't know. But the Axon 7 Mini, the ZTE Blade V8 Pro is definitely a phone that's positioned in the right spot. And so, you know, you could recommend this phone to several people. It's got a headphone jack. Sounds crazy. It's got USB Type-C. Doesn't have the best speaker. We've already covered that in the full review and several other videos. But this hardware is great. Some people are not a fan of this rubbery back. I think it's great. I think if you don't want to wear a case, this is definitely a phone that you can use. But it's got metal chamfered edges. I mean, come on. Think about that. High-end stuff. Fingerprint reader. Fingerprint reader's on the front, which is, you know, not my first choice. Gee, I wonder why. Look around here. But the fact that it has a fingerprint reader, I'm fine with that. Because if I can deal with it on some of these other phones that I have, you know, I can definitely deal with it on this phone. It's not the fastest fingerprint reader, but it's fast enough. You know, you have to press it to, but if it's lit up, you just rest your finger on it. But if it's not lit up, you have to kind of press it. But it's pretty fast. I mean, for what it is. It's a fast fingerprint reader. I don't think it's as fast as the OnePlus 3 for sure, and it's definitely not as fast as the Moto Z Play in my experience. But overall, man, I still like this phone, and it'll continue to get used, regardless of the screen scratched up pretty easy. Has your screen scratched up pretty easy? Or let me know in the comments if you have this phone. Has it scratched up easy for you, or what? So it's your man Jay Will. The ZTE Blade V8 Pro follow-up video here. What do you guys think? Should I match it against? I think I might just go ahead and set up a camera. I'll start with cameras. Because this is such an old phone. You know, do you guys think it's even worthy? Now, I say that, but this is still a champ here. You know, again, shout out to my boy, My Project 13. He runs all his videos off of this phone. Like, seriously. My man runs his channel off of this phone, man. That's crazy. He records nearly every video with this phone. And I told him, don't ever get rid of that phone, man. It's a keeper. But they're in the same price range. This is just a year old or more. So you let me know. Comments. Camera battle first, or what do you want to see? It's your man Jay Will. I will see you in the next video. Take care.